Oh my gosh. Oh, all my projects are like, this is a hot mess. Hi, welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Dear Becky and Lizzie edition.
It's like, what?
Sorry. All right.
We jumped into this pretty quickly because we're trying to pack up packages and life is a hot mess right now.
Super hot.
Like mess from selling yarn and the VSC, like a combo. Mess from me trying to figure out what I'm bringing home last night and what I wasn't. And I'm going to work on this while we talk. But hi, I'm Rebecca. I feel like the camera's off a little, but that's okay. I'll just get in a little bit. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in just like the past few days, sunny and incredibly chilly Brevard, North Carolina.
I'm Liz. I'm a minion there.
I mean, I say chilly for this time of year.
Yeah, it's supposed to warm up like 2 more degrees than yesterday.
2 more degrees. Hear that, people? Sometimes that's huge. That can feel huge. It's the past couple of days taking a walk in the morning. It hasn't felt as cold as the first day, even though technically it's been colder. So I guess I'm just adjusting to it. I don't know. So, hi, how are we all doing? We have some questions to address. We also, because Liz is busy looking at her crochet. I know you're paying attention. You just have to like put it down, find a good spot. Oh, and I know you have that open.
Yeah.
I'm trying to also vamp about a couple other things. So right off the bat, oh my gosh, it's such a hot mess of projects in front of me. Right off the bat, I want to get out of the way in case we run out of time at the end, because we have a shorter filming time again today because packages and stuff. We're not doing sit and stitch tomorrow night. Because my parents are here. I cooked them dinner last night. I think it went okay, except Mom was sharing lovely stories with me while I was cooking and trying to read the HelloFresh directions. And usually it's just me trying to read the HelloFresh directions by myself. And as I'm finishing the sauce and plating it so it doesn't get too much colder than it already is, I suddenly realized that the reason the sauce seemed to be not as thick as, or like not need to boil down as much as it needed to, is I left out a key ingredient. It was a rosemary vinaigrette sauce.
Oh.
And I didn't put in the vinaigrette.
I'd say that's not a thing.
Well, and here's the thing. It was like put in the stock. Like it was brown, cook up the rosemary for just a little bit. Like I prepped all the ingredients before they came over. So it's just gonna be like boom, 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 look, done. And it was cook the rosemary just a bit in oil, and they were also trying to like help, and the kitchen's really small and nothing against them. And then put in the chicken stock and a little bit of water, and what I glossed over was the vinaigrette and sugar, which should have been like, the sugar was it was a lot of sugar too, to compensate for the vinaigrette, and pepper and something else. And this is my first time making 4 servings instead of 2. And that meant 2 little jugs of vinaigrette were all supposed to go in.
Yeah.
And I didn't do any of that. And then once it's reduced a little, which it was already reduced when I stirred it, because there's no vinaigrette in it. Then you add in the herbed butter.
Yeah.
And then it's like a nice little saucy sauce. And so I made it, and I'm putting it on because I figured she might not even want it on her pork chops. I put a little bit on, and then I let out a few swear words because I realized what I forgot. So then for my dad and I only put 1 vial of it in because it's already,
Yeah.
And it's already gone past the spot where I should do that. But I put it back on the heat and put 1 vial in and kind of stirred it up a little and said, okay, let's try this. I'm like, Mom, do you want more? No, because that was already enough sauce.
Yeah.
So I think it was okay. They ate dinner. I don't cook dinner for other people. So this was like a historic moment. So I wasted some time telling you that story because this was historic. Oh my gosh. I realized as I left my house this morning too. So I have one little yellow light that works outside my house, and it's basically a bug light. It really does not shine light very far.
Yeah.
I turned it on when my parents left.
Yeah.
and it doesn't light up much, so you kind of forget it's on.
Yeah.
I was getting in my car to go to work today, and it's still on.
Oops.
I forgot to turn it off last night, and I live in an area where you're supposed to turn off all external lights at 11, because even this little bug light will look really bright in the middle of the night, and it was on all night.
Oops.
Life. Okay, so needless to say, because of this visit, we will not be having virtual sit and stitch on Friday. That's the whole reason I started this, because if I'm already this like out of whack, it's no. But this weekend, I mean, we're going to be open regular hours, and then on Sunday we're going to SAFF.
We're going to
Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair. Woo! It's really weird. We've been busy this week, and I keep thinking it's because SAFF is coming, and half the customers coming in are going, "What's SAFF?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Isn't that why you're here?" Yay, you're here. I'm very happy. So, Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair, we will be there sometime in the morning. I forget when it starts on
9.
Sunday. 9? We haven't decided if we're going to be there that early. Possibly. But we'll see. We're going to be there in the morning. I don't expect us to be there all day. I think that will exhaust my parents. So, and at some point they'll be like, "Okay, yarn, good. All right." Yeah. I think they'll be suitably impressed, and then at some point they'll be like,
We're done.
"We're done." But Liz and I will be, everyone will be masked, of us will be masked up probably. But if you find us, we will have coupons. I still need to make those, but we will have coupons in our pockets. And my parents last night said, "Can we have coupons?" I said, "Oh, sure. If you would like to hand out coupons, you can hand out coupons too." So, most of y'all don't know what my parents look like, but that's okay. But that's like for the first couple minutes right now, I just want to spend on, it's not as crazy as Rhinebeck with the Rhinebeck sweaters and everything. But like people who were in here earlier this week who are prepping for SAFF all came in dressed to the nines in their knit stuff. And I was telling this to my parents too last night. Like, that's part of the ritual of SAFF, of if you can, you wear either the thing you're most proud of or something you've recently finished. And I have a lot of options, and I'm not sure. Like, I'm thinking a sweater. I mean, I could wear this one. This one's lovely. It hasn't made an appearance at SAFF because most of my stuff hasn't. So I haven't been in years. But I also don't want to be overheated, right? Like,
Yeah. I know what
what do you wear?
I'm wearing my textural sweater.
Oh, nice.
Mom and I
Nice.
had a long conversation about that.
So, I mean, depending on the temperature, like I could wear my like, I'm not going to run around and grab a bunch of things right now because I don't want to neglect the questions that have come our way for today. But, like I could wear my Jupiter crop because it's got all that glorious color work, but it is short sleeve. I guess I could wear a cardigan with it too, but I don't want to get too busy. And I also, like the first year we went to SAFF, I wore a superwash merino worsted weight pullover, and I was dying. But it was also hot that year, and it's cold right now.
It's supposed to be.
Is it gonna be cold on the weekend?
Be, like 67 for the high that day.
Okay, so a long sleeve, like maybe my golden fern that I was wearing yesterday.
Yeah,
because it's got color work, but it's lighter weight. That's very possible. Because like my stripes and my cordy are both like good color options. One's color work, one's just stripes. They both need to be gleaned to high heaven, and they're still going to be pilling by the time I go to SAFF. And that's no knock on the yarn. That's just life. Soft, squishy life. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to throw out there for any of y'all watching, you've seen all the things that I wear, and you've seen all the things on Instagram. Of the stuff I've finished, because I have way too many projects going. What would you suggest I wear to SAFF? If you would like to weigh in, go ahead. And I'll let you know what I picked. But then I'm not taking up any more time. I could show off, like, if we didn't have any questions today, I would be showing off all of my stuff and saying, vote! And instead, I'm going to say, of things you've seen me watch recently, of things you've watched me wear recently, do you have any preferences on what might be a nice, like, showing off my skills, stunner of like, I could wear my super bright ranunculus. That just crossed my mind. My super bright, maybe. Because that is, it is a thicker cotton, so actually might be warm enough in it.
I did a ranunculus a couple of years ago.
Well, although here's a really good point, is for anyone who's been watching my tips and tricks videos, that's the sweater that's in all the videos.
Yeah.
So, but that was a while ago, but people are still finding it. So it could be that I get recognized in that. I don't know. That's a thought. I might be kind of like not so subtly influencing you what to tell me to wear. But if you have thoughts, let me know, especially thoughts I haven't thought of yet. What do we have for questions? Now that I've talked enough, so your sweater, so your phone falls. I can't talk right now. I'm gonna be quiet for like 30 seconds. Damn, Liz.
Dear B&L, working my way through past episodes, there was a question about your most challenging and difficult project. My apologies if this has come up in a previous episodes, but as a counterpoint, what are your favorite projects and why? Do you have some method of logging your projects with notes for future knits? And if so, what or how do you just knit and go on? Sorry.
I'm thinking practicing this before. No show notes, people. Keep going.
Rebecca, aka Becky, mentioned in one of the aforementioned previous episodes that she has converted from throwing to flicking. How do you make the transition? Do you just designate a project knowing it will have a wonky gauge and tension, or do you just do endless swatches? I'm a fairly fast thrower, but I'm intrigued by flicking. But should I just call it good and don't worry and keep throwing? Are there advantages to flicking? As usual, save or use as you wish. Thanks ever so much.
Was there something else that was a comment on one of our videos? If there was, we lost track of that.
I didn't.
All right.
I haven't looked at the comments on the videos.
If there was a comment question on a video and we don't get to it because we don't find it, we'll try to come back to it another time. Because I feel like there might have been a question-ish. I don't know. Ooh. Before I lose it, shout out to Audra. She was asking about men's sweater patterns. That's a tough one to just be able to have them off the top of our heads. And we don't have a lot of print patterns in the shop. We go on Ravelry. We're getting that's not related to what we're filming right now. Ding dong. So for men's sweater patterns, I mean, there's a few people who specifically write for men, and I would have to look that up and get back to you. But
also
I know we're totally squirreling away from what she just read, but
like the Il Grande Favorito, when I was looking through the project notes,
the unisex,
a lot of very, very basic, simple sweater patterns are unisex. And people are like, so I needed a pattern for, a guy or my husband or my son or, and they just take some guys are rocking the color work and some guys are like, I just want plain. So that's a hard question to answer when the level of detail or other things. Ravelry does have filters where you can filter by gender, or you can say unisex or something like that to try to help if you're trying to look for a specific type of sweater. But more info might be needed for us to guide you towards specific designers or specific patterns. Just to let you all know what I'm doing right now, because this might relate to the flicking throwing thing. I was gonna knit while Liz is knitting. I try this on Thursday sometimes. And this was my morning meditation this morning. I'm making some good progress on this, right? But I left my barber cords all here at the shop. And so I have this on 3 different needles right now, so it could be stretched out for a photograph this morning. And transitioning to and from needles back to your original needle takes a lot longer than barber cords. So I'm just slipping stitches at the moment. The first part of the question was favorite patterns. There was a question about our most challenging or difficult projects.
No, so she was saying we already have that's already been asked.
Yeah.
So her follow-up to that was
what are our favorite projects and why?
So what would you say? Well, she's gonna sneeze. I'm gonna have to vamp or try to talk. I mean, I would say because we've made so many of them, the Papillon, bless you.
Thank you.
The Papillon is gonna be high up on our favorite list, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So I mean, anything you see us doing more than once is probably a favorite. Wouldn't you? Like, I mean, like, some knitters will not make things more than once, and some will only make what they like more than once, and some will find one pattern and just keep making that. So the Papillon is just fun, and if you know how it works, can flow, but still give you a little bit of a counting challenge to make sure, because we even had someone on knit night who's made a million of them because we were all chatting, ended up stacking things in a way that shouldn't have happened. So it's not like it's so mindless it gets boring.
You just have to pay attention.
You just have to pay attention. Yeah. Okay. One needle is free. I'm trying to think of other favorites. I mean, ongoing favorite, I really like the Billy pullover that I'm making right now with all the cables. I still haven't made it very far. That doesn't mean I don't like it. That means that I just have too much going on.
Well, like, and some of our favorite things to do require a bit more time than others because we can't necessarily work on them at midnight.
Yeah, so you just mean maybe they're not done yet.
They have just slightly more complication than knit night knitting or at the shop knitting.
So you don't see us working on them in public, right?
Yeah. Like your Billy pullover. You find things with more intricacy, more favorite. Like
I favorite them more. Yes, absolutely. What else would you say is on your favorites?
On my favorites,
I have guesses, but
some of my favorites might not necessarily be the pattern, but it's the yarn.
Oh.
Like my 2 sweaters that I just finished. They're, I mean, it's cashmere, so
I would guess that Il Grande Favorito
is one of my favorite patterns because
you use it as a foundation for a lot of and you've made a lot of things based off of it.
Yeah.
So
it's just like when I first did it, I was reading through the project list and people were like, this is my 5th sweater because it's so comfortable. And I was like, I'll make one. And I found that I really, really like it on an 11 needle instead of the 10.5. And I just keep making them because I know it. Like it's comfortable.
Yeah, it's the idea of a favorite pattern. I mean, that is, I think, challenging for us because I like basically almost everything that I've made. There are there are very few patterns that I'm just like, oh my gosh, I would never do this again. I mean, I might not get around to making anything again after the first, but I like a lot of the things that I've made. I might have some favorite designers too.
Yeah.
But it's also hard to say that one rises to the top. Like the Ranunculus has been really fun and it's been really popular for me as a channel, as a, for the help and everything. And I like it. Is it my absolute favorite? I'm not sure. That's a more challenging question than you'd expect.
It's comfortable. Yeah. I wouldn't sit for me, a lot of my favorite things are things that I'm going to wear more because I like the combination of the yarn and the pattern and, and I have some favorite things that the fisherman's, I have this great big long, it's supposed to be trapezoidal. The one I did in the Puno, where it's 2 different colors and it's huge. And I mean, huge. And it's one of my favorite things. It was just garter. There's nothing extra, but it's huge and it's warm. And it's one of my favorite. Am I going to make it again? No, because it's huge. It's 3 miles worth of yarn.
The Fall River was really fun. And I would say it's one of our favorites here in the shop for a crochet shawl. I may not make it again, but I really love pointing it out to people.
Yeah.
The Dottie cowl was really fun for crochet. But again, I may not make it myself. I'll teach it all day long. Melanie Rice is a design. When I think about designers, we were talking about her yesterday. Melanie Rice is a designer that if she publishes a new pattern, I will stop everything and go take a look and see if I want to make it. And for me, that there's a combo of things. I like her pattern. I don't like all of her patterns. Like, I'm not instantly like, ooh, I have to make every single thing she publishes. There are certain things that are not my cup of tea that look cool, but I probably won't end up making. But you know, if it's got cables and things, there's a better chance it elevates. But I also like that she is a responsive designer, and that if I post on Instagram and tag her, she will notice and she'll say, awesome. You're like, designers who will notice, like, sometimes you can get lost in the shuffle. Sometimes designers have gotten so popular that they're not going to be able to get around to noticing everybody who's making their projects. And I would put in that category, and it's not meant to diss them or anything, like Caitlin Hunter and Andrea Mowry and Stephen West, and like there's so many people, I don't think they'd have time to get around to liking all the posts. And like I'm not that big and important yet, but I'm finding a lot of the questions on both of our YouTube channels, it's hard for me to get back to and answer everybody's question, the more questions and things that pile up there.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to understand that a little better, you know. But I like the designers that have good designs but aren't so popular that you may never hear from them. So the mid-level designers like go up a notch when they notice that we're trying out their designs, that kind of thing. So but I really like Caitlin Hunter's designs, and there's no but to it, really. It's the wrong word to use. And Andrea Mowry's designs. And I've done a few Stephen Wests. I'm not as like gaga over the Stephen West designs as some other people, but that's okay, because everybody's gonna be attracted to different styles and different ideas. He's got amazing things. And sometimes it's also that the things that he publishes are ones I know I can't do in public with people when I'm hanging with people. I need to focus and have time for them, and I know I don't have that time. So they're less likely to get done. Casa Pinka does wonderful things, and she likes to support local yarn shops, so that's wonderful. I can think about styles of patterns I really like. Like I the past couple of years I've been going on a crescent shawl kick. Like the ones that are the one skeins, or the ones that just are easy and you can throw around your neck. Like I really like those, which reminds me of Joji Locatelli. Like I'm just gonna name drop of all the things that I like to do or I've come across. And I'm not name dropping in like this like I'm so important way, because I haven't met any of these people. But they're designers and patterns I enjoy. So but it's really hard for me to say, oh, this pattern or these 5 patterns would be on my top favorite list. And part of that might be because I am just trying to make so many things.
Well, and you're also trying to have a varied amount of shop samples, both things you can wear and things that people will go, ooh, I want to make that. Because not everybody likes hats, and not everybody likes shawls, and not everybody likes sweaters, and
not everyone wants to make complicated things, even though I love them.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to have some things that aren't as complicated in the shop. And yeah, so it's, I mean, we can think about that and maybe circle back to it on another week as well, as we're going on this type of stuff. So, but that's our roundabout answer to that question. And then another part of that one was, how do we take notes for future projects and organize? And we've kind of addressed something along these lines before when someone was asking some kind of organizational question. And I believe our answer was we don't, which is not a good answer.
we might, like, I might write random stuff on either my iPhone, my iPad, or the paper pattern. But then when I'm done with that project, I don't know.
And I mean, it's hard to, like, when people look around the shop at things and they're like, well, how many skeins of yarn did you use? And what needles did you use? And it would be really beneficial for them and me if I had written things down. So I should be, but as Carol likes to say recently, should is a shame word. It would be convenient. It would benefit my business if I did this, but I often lose track and forget.
Well, and with the change in yarns, sometimes, the check your gauge, everybody, we have a lot of people that are like, oh, this is awesome. What needle did you use? And it's like, but Rebecca's gauge and the person's gauge could be very, very different. So, what we used needle wise on a project or hook wise on a project, because,
it is not necessarily going to help someone else. Like a lot of Caitlin Hunter's projects, I need to use a very different needle than she did. And that may be my gauge. That may be that I'm using a very different yarn than she did. Like if she did a merino for a pattern and I'm using a cotton to experiment, it's going to change everything up. And sometimes I'm using the same type of yarn and the same technical weight of yarn, like the same fiber and the same weight, but my gauge will still be like, I'll still use a very different needle. The place where I think it's like, some people like writing in books and then they can flip back to it. I've had customers bring in books with detailed notes and photocopies and like last time they did it and how many skeins they used and everything else. And especially if they're going to use the same yarn multiple times for a project, then it's fantastic, especially like blankets.
Yep.
They used Encore last time, they used this many skeins, so they know what they're going to do. That's fantastic. So having it depends on what organizational frame suits you. If having a book that you can go back through suits you, or having something where you can file it suits you, electronically, other than having like your own spreadsheet or something, I would highly suggest, if you use Ravelry is fantastic for categorizing your projects and the needles used, and they have they have it listed for you. You fill in all the blanks and it's there when you go back to it. If anything ever happened to access to Ravelry, that might complicate things. Or you could use Ravelry as a template if you didn't want to, only store it on Ravelry. But it depends on how much time and energy you have. Like it would be fantastic for me to have everything cataloged on Ravelry. Of the 99 million things I try to keep, of the plates I try to keep turning in the air right now, Ravelry has not become part of the mix. I haven't found a way to get an extra pull with an extra plate going up like that. I've thought about it, but I haven't sat down and done it.
It could be the one thing we could use a Media Maven for, but then again, there's the control freak issues.
Well, there is, but here's the other thing about that. Yes, someone who can do that for me, but that means I have to write it all down for that person to do. And so that is not saving me time. It is getting it in a public place where other people can look at it or where I can reference it. That's true. But I still would have to get a plate up in the air to write it down for them, or to have them follow me around and take notes or something. And I'm not there yet. So, but yes, it would be nice to let someone else do that. But when we had our college intern, it was the same thing of I would say, okay, so you can do this, but then she'd have to ask me enough questions, which is legit, totally legit. But she'd have to ask me enough questions that it was not saving me time or energy or things like that. I was hopefully teaching her some skills, which is really cool, but it was not a time saver for me. So, and there is my control freakish nature. It's true. So, it's goals, squad goals, to try to get some of this stuff up and cataloged somewhere, somehow. But I would recommend for other people things like Knit Companion, Ravelry. Knit Companion is an app where you can store a lot of patterns and utilize them well, and probably put notes on them. So I haven't used Knit Companion in a while, so I would not be an expert to talk to about that. Like the last time I used it is before it had upgraded and become even streamlined and better. So I'm not even sure I know how to use it anymore. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't take long to learn. I'm not trying to dissuade you from getting Knit Companion if you want to try. I believe it's fairly intuitive, but I haven't engaged with it in a while. So, the throwing and flicking thing, because we have like 5 minutes left. So I don't really know how I transitioned. Like, when I teach knitting, I teach throwing, which is holding this in your right hand and actually physically moving like this, throwing the yarn around the needle. That is throwing. That's one of the reasons I got this all set up. And now with my tension, the way I hold my tension, I just flick with my finger. So it is a little less movement. But if the question writer, if you're already fairly fast throwing, I think the only difference with throwing and flicking, they're both holding tension in your right hand. I think the only difference is that just your hand isn't moving as far. Like I don't have to keep re-gripping the needle. That wasn't in a stitch. I don't have to keep, but see this versus this, I might not be that much faster. It just might be more comfortable. And so it's the same thing as when English style knitters say I should learn to knit continental because it's faster. Like our response to that is I still might be a faster knitter than Liz.
You are.
And
I think it's because you do more knitting than I like. You're gonna get faster the more you do something. And like people come in and they're like, wow, you're fast. And I'm like, yeah, but Rebecca's faster and she does English. And you know, I think it's whatever you're comfortable with. And the practice. And I would caveat that with based on if your hands hurt when you're knitting, if it helps or hurts, or if you have arthritis, or comparing yourself to someone else is always challenging. Continental knitting could be faster once you learn it. I will tell you, I am a clumsy continental knitter, and that's probably because I have not practiced it. And I'm much faster doing my flicking or throwing than knitting continental. And so it's all relative to what you spend your time doing. If you're comfortable throwing, you don't have to flick. It's just this, like, again, my hands aren't really coming off the needles very much. I don't have to resituate myself. I'm still like, if you still watch me, I'm still doing this a lot of the time, where technically, someone out there could say, but your hand is coming off, because see that when I do this, my hand is coming off the needle, but it's just, there's not as much space to travel before it sits back down on it. So it's your comfort and ease with the needles. And honestly, it's not a competition. And see, I just lost a stitch, but I got it back again. It will take you as long as it takes you. And sometimes the journey is just as pleasurable, if not more, if it takes longer. I know we're all driven to see product and see results, and I feel that because I need samples for the shop. But I can't really tell you like a good way to transition because I don't even remember how I did it. Sometimes it's just you get into a routine and your body makes little changes to make life easier. The whole water wants to be flat, thing. Like
I don't even know. Like I know how I now do tension, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy and quick for someone else. I wrap it around my middle finger and I stick my first finger under, and I don't even know how, because I'm pretty sure I didn't knit like this when the shop first opened. I used to have the crevices splitting the fingerprints from pushing my needle down, and I don't have that anymore. And I can't tell you what changed. Maybe my gauge eased up so I don't have to push so hard with my finger to move my stitches around. It's been subconscious. And that's part of when I teach people, I have to take what is intuition at this point on many levels and try to talk about it in a way to someone who it's not intuition for anymore. Are you already done with both of those? She has fingerless mitts that she just whipped up in the past 2 days.
No, I just put the bottom cuff on.
We have to go.
I know.
We're out of time. If there's follow-up questions from anything we've talked about today, please comment on these videos, or more importantly, especially in Becky and Lizzie territory, you're going to email
Liz at sundragonartandfiber.com.
And so we need to go open the shop because it's exactly 10 o'clock right now. Have fun. If you are in the area or going to SAFF, we might see you on Sunday. Have a good weekend. I'll miss y'all for sit and stitch tomorrow night since we're not having it. We'll have one at the shop. If it's cold, bundle up on Saturday afternoon in person. And we'll see you next week. Bye.